Let's turn now to a different aspect of this, though. Brendan O'Neill is on the line. He's editor of Spiked Online. And Brendan, you've been writing some pieces in well, whole of the recent year, really, but some more pieces recently on Spiked Online, which I've said they have absolutely spoken to me and to a number of people I know as well in terms of how we mark these horrific events and how we talk about them and the way we talk about them and how much focus is on the coming together and the hand holding and the vigils and the singing rather than on preventing future loss of life. Now, when it comes to things like the Grenfell fire inquiry, everything has been on who's to blame, who did what wrong, what do we need to do, who needs to, who do we need to blame for this and how do we stop it happening again? And yet when it comes to terror attacks, it's almost like we go, well, it was him, he blew up his rucksack, move on, let's talk about something else.
Exactly. I think what a lot of people are saying in relation to Grenfell is get angry. We should be angry about this. But in relation to the Manchester atrocity, they're actually saying the opposite. Don't get angry. Or as the great Oasis song said, which was played numerous times after the attack, don't look back in anger. And I think what happens after terrorist attacks is it becomes very clear very quickly through both political signals that we get and through statements made by politicians or the media class. It becomes very clear that there are some emotions you are allowed to show and some emotions you are not allowed to show. So you're allowed to show grief and sorrow and upset, of course, which many people feel after terrorism, but you aren't allowed to show anger or concern or a desire to have a serious political debate about the problem of radical
We're constantly
Islam.
told, I mean, on the day, it's too soon. The day after, it's too soon.
Yeah.
Show some respect. On the funeral, we're constantly told today, a year on, again, people will probably say it's too soon. I've had people tweeting me saying, when this is a Karis says, when tragedy happens, we need to show a united front. There's a time for fighting, but today's about remembering. But the thing is, it seems to all be about remembering. And again, no disrespect to me. These families have gone through something absolutely horrific. And I say, my daughter's gone to see Ariana Grande live. So, I mean, I felt this one. I got, I had a 10-year-old. I really felt this was getting way too close to home. It seemed to me that for everyone I knew, the attack on the Manchester Arena was a game changer. It was an attack. It wasn't on Westminster. It was on children at a pop concert. It was so raw and so brutal and so horrific and in every way. And yet immediately everything was about how beautiful the visual was. Oh, and a Muslim and a Christian holding hands and candle lights and things like that. And I absolutely understand that victims and families they need to have a way of coming together and that. But it seems to me that we completely didn't have the debate about how do we stop this happening again.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree that it was a game changer, which is why I'm so surprised.
But it wasn't. But it wasn't, Brendan.
Yes, exactly. But it ought to have been because, as you say, this was an incredibly serious attack, not just on politicians or institutions, which would have been bad enough, of course, but on children. And I just think to myself that a nation that cannot get angry about the slaughter of its own children is really a nation that has lost its moral anchor. That, I think, is the real problem here. And the message I would send to... I get a lot of criticism saying it's too early to make these points or you shouldn't make them on the first anniversary and so on. But I would just say there is no contradiction whatsoever between feeling great empathy and sympathy with the families and also wanting to have a serious debate about the issue of why radical Islam is influential in many sections of British society and what we might do about that. But of course, if you raise that, you will be called Islamophobic, you might even be called racist, you'll be accused of stirring up community tension. All these terms of abuse are used, in essence, to shut down debate and to shame people into silence. I find that really worrying.
I completely agree with you, and I know there'll be a lot of people listening who agree with you as well. And again, this is no way to take away from what grieving families and what those who went through that trauma. Even the gentleman we said we just heard from, he didn't, he had to take it and gave it away. What he's gone through, and this is it. This does affect not just those immediate participants, but also it does affect a nation because it makes us that bit more fearful. And where we have bollards everywhere, every time we go to a concert or a public place, we have our bags searched. We have learned to live with it. We talk about this as resilience, don't we? And how we're all coming together as a nation. It's resilience. Is it resilience or is it just a sort of collective shrug of the shoulders? We'll just accept that every now and then a whole load of innocent people, including children, get blown up, and that's the price to pay to live in a free country. Is that what we've done as a nation?
I think that is what we've done. And what we're doing, in essence, is almost treating terrorist attacks as if they're natural disasters, just these things that happen. We don't really have much control over them. So you just shed a tear, lay a teddy bear in public, lay a flower in public, things which, as you say, are incredibly important for the family and friends. But if that's all that we do, and if we don't have a reckoning with this problem at a political level, and if we don't have a nationwide debate about the fraying of communities in Britain, the fact that lots of people in the country don't want to integrate into British values, the rise of almost kind of separatist communities which have their own ways of life, all these issues which I think should be up for full and frank discussion if we're going to get to the root of this problem. But that discussion is all discouraged. We're not supposed to talk about that, and our only role is to be emotional. So it's really an attack on us as British citizens, because what we're being told is your job is just to cry and then go back to your normal lives. Your job is not to think, your job is not to get angry, your job is not to have a political debate. So I find it really patronising, and I think now is actually the right time to talk about this at a political level.